Something is shifting beneath the surface, and over the next several days, you may begin noticing signs that something in your life is ready to change. A powerful first quarter moon in Scorpio is approaching, reaching its peak on August 20th, 2026. But this isn't a message meant for Scorpio alone. All 12 zodiac signs can feel this energy in different ways. For one sign, it could expose a hidden truth. For another, it could bring an unexpected financial realization. Someone may finally have an important conversation. Someone else may feel ready to leave a situation they've been tolerating for far too long. And one zodiac sign could suddenly realize that the thing they thought was holding them back was actually preparing them for their next chapter. So before you skip ahead looking for your zodiac sign, listen carefully, because the most important part of this reading isn't just what happens to your sign. It's understanding why this cosmic energy is pushing certain areas of your life to change. The first quarter moon represents a point of movement. Something that began earlier in the lunar cycle now reaches a stage where action becomes necessary. And with the moon moving through intense Scorpio energy, the focus goes deeper. This is about what is hidden, what is unspoken, what is unfinished, and what you already know deep inside, but may not have wanted to admit. You could notice this through a strange feeling, a conversation that suddenly feels different. A person's behavior starts revealing more than their words. A financial situation that needs your attention, or a decision you've been postponing because making the choice would force you to change direction. Scorpio energy doesn't always give us comfortable answers, but it can give us honest ones. And sometimes an uncomfortable truth is exactly what creates a breakthrough. Over the course of this reading, we're going to look at the money messages, relationship shifts, career signals, hidden truths, and unexpected opportunities connected to this cosmic checkpoint. And we're going to cover all 12 zodiac signs. But I'm saving some of the most powerful messages for later, because there are a few signs that may feel this energy in a much more personal way. So don't skip ahead. Your sign could be connected to a message you aren't expecting. Let's begin. Now let's begin with one of the strongest themes surrounding this Scorpio moon. Money. Not necessarily an unexpected bag of cash appearing overnight, but a realization about where your money's going, where your value is being overlooked, and where a new opportunity may be developing. Several zodiac signs could feel this energy strongly, and the first message is for Taurus. Taurus, pay attention to your financial instincts over the next several days. You may notice an expense that no longer makes sense, a payment that needs to be reviewed, a financial agreement that deserves a second look, or an opportunity that initially seems too small to matter. Don't ignore the small details. Something that looks minor at first could become important later. But there is another side to this. You may also begin recognizing your own value differently. If you've been undercharging, overgiving, or accepting less than you deserve, this cosmic energy could push you to reconsider. The question isn't simply, how can I make more money? The deeper question is, where am I giving away my value without realizing it? And Taurus, that realization could change the way you approach money from this point forward. Now let's talk about Libra. Libra, this Scorpio energy may bring a financial reality check. You could become much more aware of your spending habits, savings, or the security you've been trying to build. Something may force you to become more practical, and surprisingly, that isn't necessarily bad news. Sometimes a reality check arrives because you're ready to make a smarter move. You may also receive information about a financial opportunity through a conversation, message, or someone you already know. But don't rush. If someone promises quick results, look deeper. Scorpio energy rewards investigation. Read the details, ask questions, and don't let excitement make the decision for you. Now, Capricorn, your message is connected to long-term goals. You may suddenly see a connection between something you're doing today and a much bigger financial or career opportunity in the future. This could be the moment when you realize that a skill you've been developing isn't just a hobby. It could become an asset, a side project, a business idea, or a completely different source of income. The key is patience. Don't abandon something valuable simply because the results haven't appeared yet. This cosmic checkpoint may be showing you the foundation before the breakthrough. And there's one more thing Capricorn needs to remember. You don't need everyone to understand your financial or career plans. Sometimes the smartest move is to work quietly until the results speak for themselves. So Taurus is being asked to recognize their value. Libra is being asked to become financially sharper. And Capricorn may be discovering that something they've been building quietly has more potential than they realized. But money is only one layer of this cosmic shift, because for the next group of signs, the real story may involve something much more personal: love, trust, and a truth that someone may no longer be able to hide. Now we move into a much more emotional part of this Scorpio moon: love, trust, and the things people don't always say out loud. For some zodiac signs, the next several days could bring a moment of emotional clarity. Not necessarily because someone suddenly confesses everything, but because their actions begin speaking louder than their words. Let's start with Cancer. Cancer, you may notice that you're becoming much less willing to accept mixed signals. If someone genuinely cares about you, you want to feel it through their actions. And if someone keeps making promises without following through, you may finally stop making excuses for them. This doesn't mean you need to walk away immediately. It means you need to observe. Watch what people do when they think you're not paying attention. That could tell you more than any conversation. And Cancer, there is something else. You may realize that protecting your peace is not the same as avoiding difficult conversations. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is finally say what you've been afraid to say. Now let's move to Gemini. Gemini, communication becomes extremely important for you during this energy. A message, phone call, conversation, or unexpected piece of information could change your perspective about someone. You might hear something you weren't expecting, or someone from your past could suddenly reappear. But don't immediately assume that their return means you should reopen the same door. Ask yourself, why is this person coming back into my life now? Sometimes people return because they have changed, and sometimes they return simply to show you how much you've changed. That's the difference Gemini needs to recognize. And now, Scorpio. This energy carries a much deeper message for you because the moon is moving through your sign. You may feel more emotionally intense than usual. You may become unusually aware of people's intentions, and something you've been sensing for a while could finally become obvious. This could involve love, friendship, family, or even your own feelings about where your life is going. Scorpio, don't ignore your intuition, but don't let fear disguise itself as intuition either. Give yourself time to separate what you know from what you simply suspect. That distinction could save you from making an unnecessary decision. And here's where the energy becomes especially interesting. A relationship that has been confusing you may finally become easier to understand, not because someone explains everything perfectly, but because their behavior gives you the answer. And when that answer arrives, you may realize that you don't need to chase closure anymore. You already have it. So Cancer is being asked to stop accepting mixed signals. Gemini is being asked to question why someone or something is returning. And Scorpio is being asked to trust clarity without letting fear control the interpretation. But we're not done, because the next group of signs may experience this Scorpio moon through something completely different: a career decision, a personal transformation, and a choice that could quietly change the direction of their future. Now let's move into another powerful area of this Scorpio moon energy: your career, your direction, and the decisions that could determine what happens next. For some zodiac signs, this cosmic checkpoint may create a feeling that they simply cannot continue doing things the old way. And the first sign to watch is Aries. Aries, you may suddenly become aware of where your energy is being wasted. A job, project, responsibility, or professional relationship could start feeling more exhausting than rewarding. You may ask yourself, is this actually taking me where I want to go? That question matters because the answer could reveal that you're ready for a change. But don't make an impulsive move just because you're frustrated. Use this energy to create a strategy. If you've been thinking about changing jobs, starting something of your own, or taking your career in a different direction, start preparing. The breakthrough may begin with a plan long before it becomes visible to everyone else. Now let's talk about Virgo. Virgo, your message is about control. You may have been trying to perfect every detail before taking the next step, but sometimes waiting for everything to be perfect becomes the very thing that keeps you stuck. This Scorpio moon could push you to finally make a decision. Send the application, start the project, have the conversation, publish the idea, or simply stop waiting for someone else to give you permission. Your preparation has value, but preparation without action eventually becomes procrastination. And Virgo, there is another important message here. Don't underestimate a small opportunity simply because it doesn't look impressive at first. Something modest could become the foundation of something much bigger. Now let's move to Aquarius. Aquarius, this energy may challenge your long-term direction. You could suddenly question whether the future you've been working toward is actually the future you still want. And that's not failure. People change, goals change, priorities change. You are allowed to update your plan. You may also receive an unexpected idea that seems completely different from what you've been doing. Don't dismiss it too quickly. Write it down, explore it, research it, because sometimes the most important idea arrives when you're finally willing to consider a different path. And Aquarius, pay attention to conversations with influential people. A single conversation could introduce you to an opportunity, connection, or perspective you weren't expecting. So Aries is being asked to stop wasting energy and start planning the next move. Virgo is being asked to stop waiting for perfection, and Aquarius is being asked to reconsider whether the old plan still matches the person they're becoming. But there is another layer to this moon, and for the next group of signs, the biggest transformation may not come from their career at all. It may come from what they finally decide to release. Now we reach one of the deepest messages of this Scorpio moon. Sometimes the biggest breakthrough doesn't come from getting something new. It comes from finally releasing what has been keeping you stuck. And for some zodiac signs, this may become impossible to ignore. Let's begin with Leo. Leo, you may be reaching the end of an emotional cycle. Something you've carried for a long time could suddenly feel much heavier than it used to. It could be an old disappointment, a family issue, a past relationship, or simply a version of yourself that you've already outgrown. You don't have to keep proving that you can survive something you've already survived. This is your reminder that moving forward doesn't require you to forget the past. It simply means the past no longer gets to control your next decision. And Leo, if you've been feeling unusually tired or emotionally withdrawn, don't automatically see that as a negative sign. Sometimes your mind needs quiet before it can recognize what it truly wants. Now let's talk about Sagittarius. Sagittarius, this energy may bring a powerful realization about your inner world. You could start noticing a pattern you've repeated several times. Maybe you keep choosing the same type of relationship, the same type of opportunity, the same type of conflict, or the same excuse for delaying something important. This moon is asking you to break the pattern, because a new chapter cannot begin if you keep making the same choice that created the old one. You may also feel a strong desire to spend more time alone. Use that time wisely, not to overthink everything, but to listen to yourself without outside opinions constantly influencing you. And now, Pisces. Pisces, your message is about emotional boundaries. You may finally recognize where you've been absorbing other people's problems as if they were your own. You can care about someone without carrying everything for them. You can support someone without sacrificing your peace. And you can love someone without becoming responsible for their choices. This Scorpio energy may encourage you to become much more selective about where your emotional energy goes. And something interesting could happen when you do. You may suddenly have more energy for your own goals. Your creativity could return. Your motivation could increase. And an idea you've been ignoring could start feeling exciting again. Pisces, don't underestimate that feeling. It may be a sign that your attention is finally returning to yourself. So Leo is releasing an old emotional weight. Sagittarius is breaking a repeating pattern, and Pisces is learning that stronger boundaries can create more freedom. But we're approaching the most important section of this reading because 3 signs still have a major message waiting for them, and one of them may be standing directly in front of a decision that could change their next chapter. Now, we're entering one of the most important parts of this Scorpio moon reading, because for 3 zodiac signs, this energy may feel less like a small adjustment and more like a personal turning point. Let's begin with Capricorn. Capricorn, something connected to your long-term security may be asking for your attention. You may have been focused on building stability, but now you're realizing that stability and happiness are not always the same thing. A career path may look successful from the outside, yet something inside you could be asking for more. More freedom, more meaning, more control over your own time. This doesn't mean you should suddenly abandon everything you've built. It means you need to ask a more important question. Is the life I'm building actually the life I want to live? That question could stay with you for a while. And if an opportunity appears that gives you more independence or allows you to use a skill you've been developing quietly, don't dismiss it. Study it, because your next chapter may begin with something that initially looks like a small change. Now let's move to Libra. Libra, this Scorpio moon may bring a powerful lesson about self-worth. You may finally recognize that keeping everyone happy has sometimes meant keeping yourself unhappy, and that pattern may be coming to an end. You could become less interested in explaining yourself, less interested in proving your intentions, and much more interested in protecting your peace. Someone may even notice this change and question why you're behaving differently. Don't feel guilty. Growth often looks strange to people who benefited from the old version of you. And there is another possibility. A relationship or partnership could reach an important decision point. Either the connection becomes more honest, or you finally realize that you're trying to hold together something that only works when you do all the work. Let the truth reveal itself. You don't need to force an outcome. And now, Scorpio. This is where the energy becomes especially intense, because this lunar checkpoint is happening in your sign. Scorpio, you may feel like you're standing between 2 versions of yourself, the old version and the person you're becoming. You may suddenly lose interest in things that once seemed important. You may become more selective about the people you allow into your inner circle. And you may feel an almost unstoppable urge to change something fundamental about your life. Don't be afraid of that feeling. Transformation often begins when the old identity no longer feels comfortable. But remember, you don't need to announce every change you're making. You don't need everyone's approval, and you definitely don't need to explain your next move before you're ready. Work quietly, observe carefully, and let your actions reveal the transformation. Capricorn is questioning the direction of their future. Libra is reclaiming their self-worth, and Scorpio is standing at the doorway of a completely different chapter. But we're not finished yet, because there is still one final layer to this cosmic message, and it may explain why certain situations have been feeling strangely intense lately. Now we're reaching the final layer of this Scorpio moon energy, and this is where the message becomes less about prediction and more about recognition. Because sometimes the universe doesn't send a completely new situation, it changes the way you see an old one. You may suddenly understand why a relationship had to teach you something, why a career opportunity didn't work out, why a door closed when you desperately wanted it to stay open, or why a certain person could never give you what you were asking from them. This is the deeper side of transformation. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what is this trying to teach me? For Aries, the lesson is about choosing your next move instead of reacting to pressure. For Taurus, it's about understanding your value and refusing to settle financially or emotionally. For Gemini, it's about listening carefully when new information changes your perspective. For Cancer, it's about recognizing that emotional peace sometimes requires an honest conversation. For Leo, it's about releasing something from the past that no longer deserves control over your future. For Virgo, it's about taking action instead of waiting for everything to become perfect. For Libra, it's about choosing self-respect over constantly keeping everyone else comfortable. For Scorpio, it's about accepting transformation instead of fighting the person you're becoming. For Sagittarius, it's about breaking a pattern that keeps bringing you back to the same emotional place. For Capricorn, it's about questioning whether your current definition of success still makes you happy. For Aquarius, it's about allowing a new idea to change an old plan. And for Pisces, it's about protecting your emotional energy without feeling guilty for doing so. Notice something important. None of these messages are really about fear. They're about awareness. The Scorpio moon doesn't have to bring something bad into your life. It can simply reveal what you've been unable to see clearly. And when you see the truth, you gain a choice. You can continue exactly as you were, or you can make a different decision. That decision may seem small at first, but small decisions repeated over time can completely change the direction of your life. And that's why the days surrounding this lunar checkpoint could feel unusually significant. You may notice patterns, you may notice conversations, you may notice opportunities, and most importantly, you may notice yourself responding differently than you used to. That is the real transformation. Not becoming someone completely different, but finally becoming more honest about who you already are. And there's one final thing I want you to remember before we close this reading. The strongest cosmic energy isn't always the energy that creates the biggest event. Sometimes it's the energy that gives you the courage to make the decision you've already known you needed to make. And now, before we close this reading, there is one final message you should carry with you. The Scorpio First Quarter Moon reaches its peak on August 20th, 2026. But the real impact isn't about one single day. It's about what you recognize around this time. Pay attention to what keeps coming back into your mind. Pay attention to the conversation you keep avoiding. Pay attention to the opportunity that suddenly appears. And pay attention to the situation that repeatedly drains your energy. These aren't necessarily signs that something bad is coming. They may simply be showing you where your attention is needed. For some people, this cosmic checkpoint may lead to a financial decision. For others, it could bring relationship clarity. Someone may finally set a boundary. Someone may choose a new career direction. And someone may realize that they have been waiting for permission to become the person they already know they can be. So don't approach this energy with fear. Approach it with awareness. If something needs to end, allow it to end. If something needs to be discussed, have the conversation. If an opportunity appears, investigate it. And if your intuition tells you that it's time to change direction, don't automatically ignore that feeling. The most powerful transformation often begins quietly. No announcement, no dramatic moment, just one decision, followed by another and another, until one day you look back and realize that your life is completely different. That's the deeper message of this Scorpio moon. You are not being asked to predict every event that will happen. You're being asked to recognize what is no longer working and have the courage to respond differently. If this reading connected with you, tell me your zodiac sign in the comments and let me know which message felt the most accurate. And if you want more cosmic updates, astrology insights, and upcoming celestial energy explained in a simple way, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the next cosmic shift is already approaching and we'll be watching it together. Until then, trust your intuition, protect your energy, and don't be afraid to begin your next chapter.